When you're all by yourself, what do you do? What do you think about? How do you think? Okay. That's what your reputation with yourself is built on. The last time we talked, we were discussing things that you can do, some approaches you can take to overcome setbacks and slumps in your life. And if you recall, towards the end of that talk, one of the points I made, I was quite animated about it, was the importance of self belief and how you must keep your self belief. So make sure that you maintain that self belief, even in the face of setbacks. Never lose your self belief. You can do it. You can do it. Now, interestingly, a little bit after that, I got a question from someone asking me. It was a really great question, actually. Simply, you know, yeah, Einstein, thanks a lot. We know that self belief is important, duh. But how do you actually build self belief? It's, you didn't tell us how to actually build self belief. And so I said, that's a fantastic question. So I decided that this week, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how you actually build self belief, because the person was right. It's not enough simply to know that self belief is important. If you don't have self belief, the real question is, how do you build it? And so we're going to get into that today. I am Mark Johnson, the founder of Bounce Back, bringing you ideas for a fit and flourishing future. You know that I am the youngest son of Bill Johnson, proudly. Are you a subscriber? If not, subscribe now. With that said, let's jump right into this. Okay. It's an interesting thing. If you ask 100 people if they want to be rich, probably 90 something percent, more than 90 of them will say, of course, I want to be rich. Okay. But very few of those people actually do the things that it would take to become rich. And in fact, we see this with the lottery. There are a lot of people, like their wealth plan is to play the lotto. It's like, okay, you want to be rich, and your plan for getting there is to buy a lottery ticket every week and just hope that it happens, right? And of course, that's not an effective plan. It's not an effective plan. It's highly, highly unlikely that that's going to work, because someone who is doing that is not doing the things that are necessary on a regular basis to actually build wealth, which is how you get rich. No, they're just trying to hit the lottery. And it doesn't really work like that. And then even if they're that lucky one person in 100 million who actually hits the big lotto, they can't hang on to the money because they never built the financial habits, the financial standards to actually maintain that kind of wealth. They have no idea how to actually hold on to that wealth and grow it. So you see this happen with people. They say they want to be rich, but they don't have any kind of a real plan, any kind of a real framework to actually get them there. And they aren't doing anything to actually get them there. People say they want to slim down, and they'll say, I'm cutting down my portion sizes and I'm eating differently. But then when you look at what they're actually eating, you still see them going and buying boxed macaroni and cheese and bringing that home and making a big old plate of macaroni and cheese, and or getting some other kind of a prepackaged or highly ultra processed meal that you can just whip into the microwave and it's ready in a couple minutes and you eat and you're done. And got news for you. If that's your approach to slimming down, it's probably not going to work, because you're not doing something very basic, which is getting fresh food, taking it back to your kitchen, preparing it yourself. The point being to get real, natural vitamins, minerals, fiber, protein into your body that will sate your appetite, okay, efficiently meaning it'll sate it, so that it'll sate it quickly enough so that you don't overeat. You don't just keep eating and eating and eating and eating. So a lot of people, they don't really take the time. They don't invest the time to prepare healthy meals, right? And so their conduct doesn't match up with the goal that they've set for slimming down. And we see this over and over and over, and it causes frustration. Now, where am I going with all of this? Because again, the question that we're asking today is, how do you build self-belief? So let's segue into this. I want you to think about something called reputation. Okay. And more specifically, I want you to think about your reputation with yourself. Let me repeat, your reputation with yourself. Now, what does that mean? This means what you think about yourself for real. And what you think about yourself for real is based on what you know that you do and you know that you think about when nobody else is around. When you're all by yourself, what do you do? What do you think about? How do you think? Okay. That's what your reputation with yourself is built on. Okay. And the beautiful thing about it is nobody else knows what your reputation with yourself is if you don't tell them. Like, you're the only person who knows, unless you choose to share that with somebody. You're the only one who knows the truth. Okay. And the key thing that I want you to understand is this. In order to build your self-belief, you have to build your reputation with yourself. Let me repeat that. In order to build your self-belief, you must build your reputation with yourself. What is your reputation with yourself based on? It's based on something called standards, right? If you've been with me for a while and you've heard me speak on multiple occasions, you've probably heard me speak about standards at some point, okay? So we're going to discuss this again today. Your standards are perpetual conduct that validates your identity. Perpetual conduct that validates your identity. That's what your standards are, okay? And it's funny, I ask people what their standards are, and they immediately think about, like, they misinterpret the question and they think that I'm asking what their standards are for other people. And I have to correct them. I'm like, no, what are your standards for you, for your own conduct? Okay. And this brings me to another point. We can call standards, if we expand the phrase, we can call them standards of conduct. And standards of conduct are made up of both actions and thoughts. Okay. So your standards of conduct are your actions and your thoughts. Okay. Now, what are your standards of conduct? Remember when I was talking about the lottery? Remember when I was talking about the person trying to slim down? You see, the problem is their standards of conduct don't align with the aspirations that they have. Okay. All right. Again, the person who wants to get rich, like playing the lottery, that's not an effective standard of conduct. It's not going to get you there. You've got to have standards of conduct that are conducive to building wealth over time. That'll get you there. Okay. If you want to slim down, you've got to have standards, and you got to have like dietary standards that are conducive to slimming down. Okay. So this is the key. Your reputation with yourself. Your reputation with yourself is built on your standards. Now, the question is, how do you build self-belief? We're going to get into the how now. Okay. And this is just very, very practical. These are very, very practical pointers. I actually want you to implement this. I want you to follow through on what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you how for no reason. I'm telling you how because I want you to do this, okay? And one of the things that I help people do when I work with them is I help them actually examine their standards, because standards are the foundation for so much that occurs in a person's life, okay? So here's how you do it. The first thing that you do, which I just alluded to, is examine, first of all, identify a big aspiration that you have. That's the first thing. Just one thing. Just identify a big aspiration that you have. Okay. Number two, I want you to ask yourself if your current standards of conduct will get you there. Now, be honest, okay? You don't have to respond to me. You don't have to say it out loud. All you have to do is be honest with yourself. You know what your aspiration is. Ask yourself, are my current standards of conduct going to get me there? Okay? And you know the answer. You know the answer. So if the answer is no, then I want you to take one thing, one standard that you currently have, like one thing that you're currently doing on a regular basis, and I want you to make it better. Okay? I want you to change that one thing for the better. Okay? Do it for 60 days. Okay? Do it for 2 months. After that 2 month elapses, I want you to evaluate your progress. Okay? And most importantly, I want you to ask, has your self-belief improved after those 2 months? Because in most cases, I can tell you it will have. If you have done something to improve a standard, you've basically raised your standard so that it's going to get you closer to fulfilling that aspiration that you have. And you keep it up for a couple months. It's going to build your self-belief because you're going to have proven to yourself, you've proved it, that you can follow through. Okay. And so what you're doing is you're building your reputation with yourself, and you're doing it by raising your standards, improving your standards. And that inevitably builds your self-belief. If you have low standards and you're not reaching your goals and you're not moving towards your aspirations, there's no way in the world that you can have real self-belief. It's impossible. You cannot have it. Okay. And so you've got to build your reputation with yourself. And that is how you do it. I've just given you the framework. So I want you to run with this. Okay. Don't sit on it. I want you to run with this. Do something with this treasure chest, this treasure trove of knowledge that I've just passed on to you. Okay. Don't be that person that's sitting around wanting to get rich and playing and buying lotto tickets. Don't be that person who wants to slim down and is eating all the wrong things. Okay. Or whatever it else, whatever your aspiration is, work on your standards. One more time. What are standards? Standards are perpetual conduct that validate your identity. Work on that. That will improve your reputation with yourself, and that will build your self-belief. Take that with you. Talk to you next time.